No one is seeing what is really important. Mercedes and McLaren have just activated a test that could decide the entire season without anyone noticing. The Nürburgring returns, yes, but not out of nostalgia. It returns as a secret laboratory where the two strongest teams of the moment will understand before anyone else the tires that will define performance in 2026. And here is the detail that changes everything. They do not carry test pilots. They carry their starters. Norris, Piastri, Russell, and Antonelli. When that happens, you are not testing, you are competing in silence. Because while the rest look at results, they are building an advantage. Is this test just a technical test, or the first real shot at the 2026 championship? The movement is already underway. Mercedes and McLaren have arrived at the Nürburgring with a goal that goes far beyond Pirelli. The trigger is clear: 2 days, 14 and 15 of April 2026, in one of the most demanding circuits on the historical calendar. It is not a Grand Prix, there are no points, but there is something more valuable: real kilometers without competitive restrictions. Everything starts here. Pirelli needs to understand how its new narrower tires work. But while the supplier searches for data, the team sees something else: a unique opportunity to correlate simulator, aerodynamics, and real car behavior in track conditions. And that's why the decision changes everything. McLaren and Mercedes do not hide their cards. They take out their starting drivers. Norris and Piastri, leaders of the championship. Russell and Antonelli, the present and future of Mercedes. This turns a technical test into a covert development scenario. Each lap not only measures wear, measures balance, measures traction. It measures how the car responds in fast corners, in long braking, in elevation changes unique to the Nürburgring. And there is a detail that makes the difference. McLaren arrives as the absolute reference on the grid with 374 points. A car that understands tires better than anyone. Mercedes arrives in growth. A car that already wins races and is beginning to find real consistency. Two philosophies, two moments, the same objective: to understand the new Formula One of 2026 before anyone else. This is where the real problems begin. Because what seems like an opportunity is also a risk that can change everything. Mercedes and McLaren do not only face the technical challenge of tires. They face an environment that can completely ruin the plan. The Nürburgring in April. Cold, humidity, sudden changes, even possibility of rain or fog. And this is critical, because the test is designed for dry tires. If conditions are not stable, the data loses value. What should be a strategic advantage can turn out to be incomplete, or even misleading information. But the climate is not the only problem. The real point of tension is in reliability. The cars of 2026 are still in the understanding phase. New power units, greater electrical dependence, systems still at the limit. Every kilometer adds up, but also exposes weaknesses. A breakdown here does not penalize on the grid, but it does consume resources, time, and trust. And at this point, the situation is not the same for both teams. Mercedes plays in the technical house. Own engine, total control, constant evolution. Each failure is internal information, not McLaren. McLaren depends on Mercedes. And there is already clear concern about the lack of shared data on the new engine. This test can widen that gap, or definitively confirm it. If the engine does not respond, McLaren not only loses time, you lose clarity about your own performance. And then the real dilemma appears. To what extent does this test help McLaren, if it depends on the same technology that its direct rival controls? Mercedes, meanwhile, can use every lap to reinforce its structural advantage. Two teams on the track, same goal, but not the same tools. Everything breaks at this point, because what Mercedes and McLaren discover here cannot be hidden, and it cannot be corrected quickly either. The test enters its critical phase when the data begins to contradict what was expected. The new tires don't respond like they do in the simulator. The loads change. The balance of the car becomes unstable in certain corners. And suddenly, what seemed like a simple adaptation becomes a structural problem. Here appears the breaking point. McLaren, which bases its strength on tire management, faces a completely new scenario. If behavior changes, its greatest advantage may be diluted. It's no longer about rhythm, it's about understanding. And when that understanding fails, leadership begins to falter. Mercedes, on the other hand, finds something different. The W17 is starting to show consistency in varying conditions. It's not perfect, but it responds. And in a new regulation that is worth more than pure speed. But there is one detail that changes everything. Antonelli. In a pressure-free environment, start extracting key information turn after turn. It does not seek the limit, it seeks to understand. And that accelerates the development of the car in a way that cannot be replicated on a race weekend. This is where everything is redefined. Because this test stops being a direct comparison and becomes a technical revelation. McLaren discovers that he doesn't have everything under control. Mercedes confirms that its foundation is solid. And in that instant, the balance of power changes. This is where everything is decided. Because after the Nürburgring, nothing will be the same for Mercedes and McLaren. The climax is not in the test, it is in what comes after. Mercedes comes out with a clear direction. The W17 responds, the data adds up and the team already knows where to attack in development. They don't need to reinvent the car. They need to optimize it. And that, in a new regulation, is a brutal advantage. Because while other teams are looking for answers, Mercedes is already working on solutions. McLaren, on the other hand, enters a much more delicate phase. He is still the leader. He has the points, he has the pace, and he has two drivers in a state of grace. But now there is a doubt that did not exist before. Understanding is no longer total. And when a team stops fully understanding its car, every decision becomes riskier. Each adjustment can bring you closer or further away. Here is the final transformation. Mercedes goes from persecutor to real threat. McLaren goes from absolute dominator to leader under pressure. And all without the public having seen a single official lap. This test gave no points, but it did define the course. Because in Formula One, seasons are not won on Sunday, they are built on days like this. Mercedes is no longer a mystery. It is a team that has found direction, stability, and a technical base that responds under pressure. Now everything depends on execution, strategy, precision. Because when a car works, the next step is to turn that potential into consistent victories. And that's where Mercedes can change the season. McLaren, for its part, enters a completely different scenario than the one it dominated. It's no longer enough to be fast. It is no longer enough to manage races well. Now you need to react. You need to show that you can adapt faster than anyone else to a changed context, that can maintain its advantage even when the terrain is no longer known. And that is the most difficult thing in Formula One. Because leading is one thing, sustaining leadership when everyone is chasing you with more information than before is another entirely. Here is the final resolution. 2 teams. 2 paths. Mercedes building a comeback based on understanding and consistency. McLaren defending a leadership that now has cracks. And the championship enters a new phase. More technique. Tighter. More dangerous. Because after the Nürburgring, there are no more excuses. Mercedes is no longer reacting. He is leading the way. With data from the Nürburgring, the team can anticipate how the tires will evolve on different circuits. That means more aggressive strategies, more precise stopping windows, and a superior ability to adapt from the first training session of the weekend. This is silent mastery. You don't see it in headlines. It is seen in constant tense. It is seen in correct decisions before the rest. McLaren, meanwhile, enters much more demanding terrain. Still fast. It remains competitive. But now he plays defense. Every race becomes a constant validation that they still understand the car better than anyone else. And when that need appears, the pressure appears. Because any error now is not isolated. It's a sign. Here the new order is defined. Mercedes begins to condition the championship from engineering. McLaren is forced to respond from the track. And in Formula One, when a team dictates development, it ends up dictating the results. This is the true impact of the test. It was not an event. It was the start of a trend. A trend that can completely change the history of 2026. Because in the end, everything comes down to an idea. The team that understands first, forces the rest to chase. This was not a simple test. It was a silent declaration of intent. Mercedes and McLaren arrived at the Nürburgring with the same objective, but they leave with completely different realities. McLaren confirms something disturbing. His dominion is not absolute. It depends on variables that you still do not fully control. The new tires have opened a gap in his greatest strength, management and understanding of pace. Mercedes, on the other hand, leaves with a clear basis. A competitive car, a solid structure, and a young driver who accelerates development with each lap. And here is the conclusion that many do not want to see. The championship is not going to be decided only by speed. It will be decided by who understands this new regulation first. Because in Formula One the difference is not in racing more, it is in understanding better. And after this test, the question is no longer who is faster. The question is another. Has Mercedes' definitive comeback just begun? While McLaren begins to lose the control it seemed to have secured,